Casino employees of Reddit. What is the worst you have ever seen someone handle a loss? I was security at a casino for a few years. Saddest story for me was this older gentleman, let's call him Tom for privacy's sake. Now Tom would frequent the casino every day, spending anywhere from $200 to $300. I had struck up a lot of conversations with him because he was a regular, and he was a genuinely kind person who I enjoyed seeing. One day Tom comes in and I can tell he was upset. I don't make anything of it, but after seeing the guy for a few years almost every day, that day he looked really off. So a couple hours go by and I track him down and ask, how's the day going? Any big wins? Just a general chit-chat. He starts sobbing, tears running down his face. His wife had passed away from sudden cardiac death, is what I believe he called it at least. He was devastated. We talked for quite a while. I tried comforting him while he played the machines, and I noticed he was betting extremely large. $200 to $300 per spin on the machine. I knew that was a lot for him, but I didn't say anything because it's not my business. And I was sure it's a coping mechanism for him at the moment, doing something he loved when he just lost the love of his life. Hours later, I see him heading out the door and I run up to him. I catch him and wish him all the best and that I'll see him soon. He smiled, said thanks for the chat and thank you for the condolences, and left. He booked a room in our hotel and unalived himself that night. A little while later, I find out through some of our other staff who were sort of friends of his family that he had spent all of his money, every dime that evening, spinning high limit on the machines. I'm assuming because he wanted a little enjoyment before he took his life. Still makes me upset I didn't invite him over or do anything else because I knew he was in pain. OP, I gotta say, this one's not on you. It's impossible to know what will help in these situations, and you just gotta do the best you can. And you never really know where someone's head is at, so it's not your fault at all. The situation, though, is just terrible. Story 2. Was a waitress in casino establishment for 10 years. People taking their own lives did happen, but it wasn't common. Saddest was an Asian woman who hung herself in the toilets. She lost $20K or so from memory and was not a high roller type. 3 to 4 days later, her car was to be towed from the underground car park. Sadly, she left her 2 fluffy dogs in there and nobody knew. Poor things were dead. The establishment then put on parking patrol officers who check cars every few hours. They would find alive dogs and kids in there far too often. I quit after 6 months as I was tired of watching miserable zombies. I don't think I could ever work in a casino. I think I would be way too depressed watching people be depressed and gamble. The environment just seems like hell to me. Story 3. I actually did work in a casino in Las Vegas a few years back in VIP services. One of our high rollers who visited frequently had a very bad gambling problem that his wife was divorcing him over. He lost everything at the tables and couldn't even afford his plane ticket back home. He threatened to go to the roof of the building and throw himself off. The casino felt so sorry for him we ended up buying a ticket back home for him. Never heard from him again after that. Story 4. Former table dealer here. I've had drunk guys tell me I'm the worst dealer ever, I suck, whatever. I would just reply, have a nice day. The other people at the table were generally all on my side. I've had high rollers slam the table with their fist or not react at all to losing thousands. The worst and the saddest one that sticks out in my mind, though, is a guy who was around $2,000 down on blackjack. He was nice and he was tipping pretty well. I was rooting for him, as I tended to do. I knocked his tens for good luck. Then he lost a big one and just yelled, "Frick," so loud that the entire casino must have heard it. It was the kind of desperation in his voice and everything about him that told me he could not afford to lose as much as he just lost. He went to the ATM and I rotated to another table. It was stuff like that, the frickin' smoke in my face, sleep deprivation from the late nights that led me to get out of there. A lot of other unpleasant moments too, but they all blur together. Money was nice, but it wasn't for me. Story 5. Not a casino employee, but just the other day my father-in-law, security, watched an elderly lady lose everything at a poker table, then go around and steal a couple people's purses/wallets. When they confronted her and asked for ID, she wouldn't give it to them because they weren't the police. When the police arrived, she still wouldn't give them her ID or even her name, saying they couldn't arrest her if they didn't know who she was. Needless to say, they arrested her. The last thing the cop asked her was, "Are you at least going to cooperate and walk out with us to the car, or are you going to do it the hard way?" They had to carry her out and she was kicking the windows in the back of the car the entire time. Addiction can really make grown people do some crazy things, huh? A full-on tantrum as an elderly woman. That's yikes. Story 6. I sat next to a guy. He drove a Pepsi truck. He said his mom died and left him $30,000. He'd never seen this much money before, so he thought he could turn it into $100,000. We're at the blackjack table. He's getting wasted and crying inconsistently because of his mom, talking about her dying. The cocktail waitresses are teasing him the whole night and he tips them $25 every drink. In 2 hours, he loses everything. He has this look of nervousness on his face and said his wife is going to end him if she finds out about this, because they have 4 kids and want wanted to buy a house. He walked out, and 10 minutes later I go to my car and see that he got a DUI. In 24 hours, his mom died, he gets a ton of money, loses it all, will probably get divorced, gets a DUI, and is sitting in the back of a cop car with blue balls from the cocktail waitresses. A lot of people just don't know how to deal with windfalls, huh? $30,000 all at once is a lot of money, and if he's never used to that kind of money, I can see why this didn't seem like that bad of an idea to him. But really, whew, you get that much money, you need a very clear plan what to do with it, or it will probably be wasted. Admittedly, probably not as bad as this guy, but it probably will be wasted. Story 7. Dealer for 10 years. Third day dealing. Fresh out of dealer school, I'm dealing Pai Gao tiles. Asian domino game. Try to pair up the tiles and add as close to 9 as possible. On a $25 minimum game. Guy bets 25 to 75 for a good 2 hours. He then slides his whole stack on one hand for 3K. For those who know the game, he gets Tin Dai Bo. I pulled Jijun. For those who don't know the game, it's like he got pocket kings and I got pocket aces. Or he pulled a 20 in blackjack and I pulled 11 cards to make 21. The odds are astronomical. It's the only hand that beats him. He slams his fist on the table, swearing in Chinese. Chips fly everywhere, and he begins to shove fingers down his throat and self-induces vomit all over my game. Close the table and pit down for cleanup. Third day dealing. Money and benefits are great though. Highly recommend the industry. Made 30 to 40 an hour. Story 8. Obligatory not a casino employee, but when I was in Vegas, I was watching a very intense game of blackjack on Fremont Street. The guy bet everything he had, convinced, since he was on a winning streak, this would be the hand that doubled his winnings. Unsurprisingly, he busts. As soon as they swooped his chips away, he began slamming his hands on the table, screaming, "What the hell? What the hell?" With his girlfriend dressed in a cheesy, tight mini dress and 7-inch heels, screaming at him and telling him that he promised her a Birkin purse with that money and crying. An unsuspecting guy accidentally bumped into this irate dude, and that just made him lose his mind. A chair went flying. The dude he bumped into stepped up and starts asking him if he wants a piece of this. Shoves are exchanged, and the screaming starts just as a high heel is thrown straight past the sore loser's face and right into someone else's head. I wanted to stay and watch the throwdown, but my boyfriend yanked me away with a solid nope. Just as well. 2 furious-looking Vegas PD officers were literally shoving their way through the crowd as we stepped away. Story 9. Not an employee, but the first time I was ever in a casino, I was skulking around the blackjack tables. I was baffled by the minimums. $500, $1,000, $5,000 a hand? Edit. Someone has pointed out that I may have been looking at the maximums. It's hard to remember, but I thought it was nuts. This was a busy day and all of them were full. I sat behind the $5,000 table. I watched a guy lose hand after hand after hand. I always figured that when someone bets at these tables, they have so much money that they can afford to throw it away like it was nothing. Not this guy. I don't know if this guy just wanted to be a high roller for the day or what, but he was visibly upset and very quickly bleeding into audibly upset. He lost his last hand and just frickin' lost it. Then he proceeded to rant and rave until the pit boss came over and offered him something or other. He continued to be a giant jerk, so 3 security guards came over and escorted him to the buffet. I like to imagine he tried to get his tens of thousands of dollars back in crab legs. Yeah, I don't think a blackjack table is $5,000 minimum. OP definitely has something mixed up, but still. The guy was probably betting a lot of money that he clearly could not afford to lose. That's the way it goes too, though. You make losses at smaller tables, then you move up to try and win it back. And guess what? That's never the play.